All right, welcome. So we are going to skip the virtual meeting protocol and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4, opening remarks. I guess the town manager, do you have any opening remarks?
Nothing for me, John, other than we're obviously getting close to the end of the project, and kudos to members of the committee that have been with us through thick and thin. I think we've got a spectacular project, spectacular product, and I think it's something that everybody should be proud of. So thanks to this committee primarily. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you. How about Mr. Bray?
I'll just echo what Mr. Dutton said. I just want to thank everybody. We've been there for 4 months now, and the progress each week, as he said, we are getting very close to completion. So I just thank everyone for their efforts. I know the staff, students, families, and those people who have come are very impressed with the project. So again, I know the committee has been working on this for a very long time and putting in a lot of time and effort. So I just say thank you to everyone.
All right. Thank you. So for item 5, I was not at the November 14th meeting for the approval of those prior meeting minutes. And I usually abstain because I wasn't in attendance. So I don't know what we would do, because I know we have a few extra people who are normally here that aren't. So would we forego that, or do we just do we know if we need any special type of quorum, or is it just a quorum of those attending?
I think you need at least 5 members who are at the November 14th meeting, and I'm not sure if we have that. Worst case, you can defer till the next meeting on the minutes.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I also was not at that meeting.
Okay, well, why don't we defer? Do we need a motion to defer? I guess I think we do.
You
What
can.
do you think?
I'll make the motion to defer, Mark.
I'll second Scott.
All right. All in favor, I guess. We'll do the roll.
Okay, John Garish,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Pat, we'll go to Harsh,
Yes.
Michael Osh,
Yes.
and Scott.
Yes.
Michael, I'm a yes. Sorry.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Skipping over to item 6 then. OPM update. Hi, Alyssa.
Hello. I'm disabled from screen sharing.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. There you go.
Thank you. Alrighty. So for our progress update, we're continuing to work through contract work. Warranty and punch list items continue to be tracked. We will be meeting with Bacon Construction tomorrow to close out majority of those items that have been completed. So we expect to have a new warranty log for that. Teachers are continuing to fill out the Google form with any deficiencies or concerns. Recently, we met with WB Mason to request any additional furniture pricing for items that some of the nurses needed in their stations, and then a couple other miscellaneous items. So overall, we'll plan to move forward with any of those requests. As far as the Rulon panel installation, they've been making great progress on that. We do have some photos to show you, and that work continues to happen over the school hours. It's projected to actually go to the end of the month. So we're hopeful that work will be wrapping up. As far as the wooden beams in the ceiling of the library, that has been completed, as well as the media center. We continue to meet with the owner, architect, contractor on our Tuesday meetings. We had NSG, who's our security access control intrusion alarm contractor. So they're working with the electrician, and they've been on site a few times, just ironing out some of the deficiencies with the system. We do have a formal training tomorrow after school, and that's going to demonstrate to the staff how to use those systems. That will be recorded, and they'll follow an agenda to go through those items. So that will be a really good training. And then shortly after, we'll have lighting controls coming up. So here's a couple progress photos. It's that school front entrance and the main lobby. So you can see some of those panels on the right picture here. That's new. So that's that maker space where we voted on a change order to paint the above head piping and conduits and label them, so that way we know what those are. So it's kind of a good learning opportunity for the kids. And then on the right here, we have the pre-K wing. So you see that panel work has been completed all the way up to the skylights. And we have our pre-K playground, and then that paneling in the library. All right, so just projecting out work to the end of this month. We're really cutting down on the amount of work we're doing, which means we're coming close to the end, like Michael Dutton mentioned. Just some miscellaneous work, some broken cores and cylinders that need to be replaced. And some of those were classroom function locks, nothing that's inhibiting security measures or anything like that. So we had some display cabinet glazing that needs to be completed, so that will be done over the break. We actually were adding a second coat of sealer to the gym floor. We mentioned last meeting that was a quality issue. So they're coming back to do that over the break. We have some brake metal trim and some broken glass panes that are going to be replaced. And then a door on the exterior that's going to be fixed and corrected and replaced. So like we mentioned, we're continuing those acoustical panels. That should happen for the next couple weeks. We're completing the gym operable partition. There are a few issues with that, so they're just ironing out that. And then per the fire department inspection, we had to add a smoke hatch, so that's going to be happening over the break. And then we have some AV work scheduled this week by Ockers, and that's going to be in the cafeteria. And then we're finalizing some lighting controls. So that is our schedule. So just projecting out the next couple meetings, January 9th, February 13th, March 13th. You'll start to notice that these meetings will get shorter and shorter. There'll be less to update. Eventually, we'll just be meeting to pay bills and update you with any warranty or deficiency issues going on. So this is just a budget update of where we stand. We're still tracking on budget. Not a lot has changed on this. And then continuing just to track that ProPay, the latest ProPay 34 is under review at the MSBA. And that is our update. Does anyone have any questions?
Alyssa, this is Lisa. I have a couple questions from the teachers.
Sure.
And they were wondering, we still are missing some of the small wares. And then in the library, there was originally going to be like some seating around that bay area, and Nora Dolan, the librarian, was wondering if that was still on order or what was the
Yeah,
situation.
so we had WB Mason on site this week walking through all the items, any of the items that were missing and or back ordered. So he is looking into that library seating.
Okay.
So that was on his list. That was one of the
Oh,
things.
okay.
As far as some of the small wares that haven't come in, a lot of it was back ordered.
Yeah.
So if there comes a time, probably in the next month or two, that we don't see those items come in, we may end up meeting and saying, let's get replacements for some of those items, or just nailing down what hasn't come in yet. So that still has to happen because there were quite a few things that were back ordered.
Yeah. And then the other question was the cell service. I know that was going to be looked into, what was going on with that.
Yeah, so our IT manager in the district had Betco come out and do basically like a survey for the building. They're going to come back on site and do a cell signal test. And then they'll come up with a design. And at that point, we'll bring that cost to the committee because it would still be a project cost. And then we'll have you guys vote on that to move forward. But they need to do the design first to figure out what it's going to take to actually get service in the building. Because as you know, there's absolutely no cell phone service.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
John, could I ask a question to Alyssa? It's Pat.
Sure.
So Alyssa, when we talked before, I thought the gym was gonna be done the first weekend in December because they didn't need that much time. Remember we talked about they were gonna do it over Thanksgiving break, then it got moved to the first weekend in December? Did that
Yes.
get that got moved out again to February?
No, it's happening over the holiday break. The reason that happened was because the operable partitions had a quality issue, and they also had an installation issue when it actually finally came in. So in order to get that all fixed and situated, we went with the next availability for JJ Curran to come back. So that's when they were going to come back over the holiday to do the second coat on the floor. But we're still using the gym.
But all the partitions will be in and everything?
Yes.
And then what about the bleachers for the gym? Are they in now?
I believe they are.
Yes, they've been in for a while.
Oh, good.
We just don't really use them.
And last question, what about the lighting issue? Is that resolved yet? Are we almost resolved?
Yeah, so we're getting there. I will say that they were on site last early this month, and they came to the district IT manager and said that they required about 10 IP addresses to finish out the lighting controls in the parking lot. And this request was not made to us the prior, 4 times we got IP addresses. So they use that as an excuse to not complete the work. So they are going to be returning to complete those lighting controls. I would say they've gotten pretty far, but to this point, they've only billed 25%. So there's still a little bit to go. And then we still need to do a formal training for that. But I think we talked about in the last meeting with the utility bills that we were going to run some calculations in accordance with GGD and RDA to figure out what is the actual cost of running this lighting 24/7 and not having it be controlled. So we are working on that on the side right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alyssa, a follow-up to that lighting question. So how do they know when it's due? In other words, is there some hard end date that they have to have it done before the contractor faces penalties? Does it just float along until they get around to getting it done?
Well, at
Just
this
curious.
point, we've already let them know that we would back charge them. So that's why we're trying to pin those utility costs on them, because the energy usage that is supposed to come out of this building, we know that value. So right now we're planning to back charge them, and we have already let them know and let the contractor know that that would be coming. So hopefully that motivates them to get this done sooner than later before the holidays. But I would say that's kind of like our internal deadline, like that needs to happen this month.
Okay. It would be nice to have a hard date so that they have to get it done. You know,
Yeah, I don't know if John.
if it's
texted
beyond,
that.
you know, I mean, if it's within their control. Obviously,
Right.
if it's beyond their control, we wouldn't want to penalize them, but something like that, you know, they know the light should work when you open the building or soon thereafter, so. All right, thanks. Are there any other questions? I had a question on scheduling the future meetings. I know you had 3 of them on there, so I understand, you know, we'll need to meet even when we think the school's done, right? There'll be business to take care of. So you mentioned warranties. So does that mean the committee is going to be constituted and probably meet through the end of the warranty period? Or what do you think?
Well, typically the MSBA closeout process is about a year. And we'll do a 9 or 10 month walkthrough post occupancy. So I'm assuming eventually we won't need to be meeting every month, maybe every other month at that point, and it would be probably just to pay bills.
Okay. All right, so it's probably going to run then till November or December then of next year, right?
It may be sooner than that, but yeah, I would assume that eventually we won't have to be meeting every single month. We can just meet every other.
John, can I ask a question on that same token? This is Mark.
Sure.
On the building project that I was involved with at Southeastern, we were done after 3 months. I don't understand why it would go that long. I mean, the building is built. There's a few things to finish up with it, but I can't for the life of me, after you said it last month, going into November or October, it doesn't make sense to me. It didn't happen in the other project. Now, we didn't do a brand new building. We did a renovation expansion, but it just, I don't get it.
Yeah, Mark, or if you don't mind, John, I will
Sure.
say a year, up to a year is typical. You definitely do not have to meet unless there's business to do. But the MSBA does require a walkthrough, and you're not going to pay the contractor, their final rec until everything is accounted for. So I totally get it, Mark. And I was going to say, Mike and Dennis both said how grateful they were for the meetings. Just look at the schedule. Number 79 is in March. So you guys are going to hit 80 plus. But I just want to say it's not unusual what Alyssa's talking about. But you don't have to do it every month. It's just when there's business.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess the natural break then, Alyssa, will be when the contractor doesn't expect to get paid monthly, right? When he's reached that point, then maybe we can shift to every 2 weeks. And if something urgent that absolutely needed a committee action, we could schedule it on the off month that we did not schedule it. That sound reasonable?
Yeah, we'll try to not inundate you guys with meetings that we don't need. Like Jean said, if there's business to discuss, we would expect to have at least a short meeting. But at that point, it would really just be to pay bills. I have a lot of other building committee meetings that are just, 15, 20 minutes because we're meeting, doing our Pledge of Allegiance, giving it a quick update and paying bills and getting out of there. So I'm assuming at some point it will be, less to update you guys on.
All right, thank you. Any more questions for Alyssa for the OPM update? All right, how about if we move on to item 7, designer update?
All right. So I try to be good this month and get the memo out early. There is I'm going to say a small change order compared to the ones in previous months. And I can go through it if you want. It's a total of $49,455. You can just roll through it. There was 11,806, which was for additional signage. The fire department, which is not out of line and not unusual. asked for some additional signage so that out-of-town responders might know, I don't know, where the fire alarm control panel is or where the electrical room is, et cetera, et cetera. But the vast majority was to put in the size of letter size, clear frames in every room that are kind of like those maps you see in a hotel room, just showing when you go through this room, the exits to the right or to the left or both. So that was 11,806. And I guess all kind of makes sense to us. The next one was an addition of 19,683. And again, this was requested by the fire department, but they're again not on a line. On the learning deck outside the maker space, they requested, we had some strobes out there that go off when they're when the mass notification, there's an intruder or there's some emergency that's not fire related. And they were not colored amber, which is the color that we used inside the building. So we had to order some special ones to do that. And then on the stage, if there's smoke in the stage, there's some hatches in the roof that open up so that so the smoke can get out of the building. And they suggested, and actually we're going to do it on jobs going forward, that there's a trouble light, so to speak. Like the fire department would come in if there's an alarm and they'd say, oh, everything's okay. Then they'd reset the panel. But there's a possibility that those hatches still might be ajar. So they suggested that we put a sensor in so that people know to go up and actually close those. So that was 19,000. So between those two, that's most of the change order. There's a bunch of small ones. There's one for $4,081, which is to put some additional signage and some pavement markings out on the site to help Dennis control, the pickup and drop off situation. There's $2,044 to install some crushed stone and some filter fabric. We have planters that are out on the nice wood deck out in the playground. It's but everyone realized, like, oh my gosh, when you water these planters, the soil's just going to kind of go down through the bottom and stain everything. So we put some crushed stone to help the drainage, and then we put some filter fabric so the soil doesn't wash out onto the deck. Again, that was about $2,044. Then there's a very small one. It's $1,579 on the man, quote unquote, man trap at the front door. After school is in session, you can only get in one door, and a person would get buzzed in, but it's a vestibule. They can't get into the lobby unless they're buzzed in from the office. So we had all the right hardware, fully described it in the hardware spec, but we hadn't described it for the electrical file subcontractor. So technically, that trade didn't own it, and we had about $1,600 to have an electrician kind of catch up with our hardware spec, so that when you got buzzed into the front, you couldn't go into the lobby, and when then you got buzzed into the lobby. Then there was $2,500, which was everywhere there's a data outlet, for a monitor, mostly for monitors at this point. The owner had a different vendor who was installing, either cover plates on data outlets or, TV monitors. So that vendor didn't have the capacity to blank off plates that weren't being used before the certificate of occupancy had to be issued for in September. And so, John and Alyssa just came up with hey, just have the electrical contractor do it. But it wasn't in their scope, so that's about $2,500. Then there's a credit of $5,000. The rubber play surface out in the big playground in front of the cafeteria. Our landscape architect was having just a hard time with some of the ways that the top layer got installed in a couple areas. And to be honest, we're kind of looking at it like, ooh, like, what are you talking about? But I know how it is. Like, as an architect, sometimes I see things and they really strike me as like, oh, she hadn't done that. So the decision was made, instead of having the rubbers, because it's not a durability, it's not a function issue, it's just a kind of an aesthetic issue, to just have the playground installer, so they had some culpability, hey, we're going to take $5,000 from you. The other choice was to have them come back in the spring, shut down the playground, and kind of redo some stuff. So I think everyone involved felt like this was fair. So it's kind of one of those rare times you get a credit instead of an ad. And then kind of in that same area, there's an ad of $12,558. And this is something that wasn't left off, but it was, once you're living in the building, hey, this would be really good to do. So when kids go out to recess, they go outdoors. But you want those doors to latch, and you don't want someone to just be able to go open a door, some stranger, and come into the building. So the only way to get into the building at that point is with a swipe card. We have one at the end of the corridor on the ground floor that goes out to the play fields. And that's where we thought that kids that go out from the cafeteria after lunch, and play in the playground and then come around the end of the building and go back in the corridor. But I think, live and learn, when the teachers are using it, they were saying, wow, if there's an emergency, we may not be able to go around the corner, have time to go around the corner. We're just going to want to go right back into the cafeteria, with the kids and get them protected. So we added a card reader at the one of the doors leading into the cafeteria to kind of facilitate that. So that's what we did this month. To be honest, Alyssa, not to put you on the spot, but there's still things percolating out there beyond this, or are we kind of getting near the end?
We're getting close to the end. I will say that we were trying to rack our brains the other day for any items that we were potentially missing, and this seemed to have captured everything so far, but I don't want to speak out of turn and then something comes up.
Right, but we're getting there for sure.
Yeah, we're really winding down.
So John's on the line, Alyssa's here. If anyone had any questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's my report, John.
All right, any questions for Jean?
This is Lisa. I have a question. I'm the
Sure.
question person tonight. On the backfield playground, when it's been raining and everything, it's really muddy back there. Was anything done for the field itself, or just for the two ends with the playground equipment?
Gene, this is John.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
The field was what they call cut sown with seed. So the field wasn't touched, other than to overseed it to get the grass that was growing there a little thicker. Now, along the edges, there was some minor looming grading work done. So probably 8 to 10 feet away from that walkway into that field, there was some fresh loam and seed. And we have spoken to the landscaper and Bacon at length about the fact that the grass was not acceptable when it was quote unquote finished in October. So they know that they are back in the spring cleaning up and reseeding whatever is necessary to get rid of this mud issue that's in that. We're talking about the two new playgrounds, right?
Yeah, the one in the back, yeah.
That area is definitely getting some work in the spring when we can do the work.
Okay. And was there a reason why there's no like gate back there to, you know, once they're in that playground, there's no gate to get around the outside area? I know there was some guys, you know, doing some cleanup and they had to put ladders up on both sides to get out on the other side. Cause quite often we have a ball go out there and, you know, the kids are like, I'm like, oh, wow, we can't get it. I didn't know if
You're
there
talking
was
about onto Wally Kruger Way?
Well, yeah, that whole back playground is all fenced in, which is awesome. But there's like, if the ball goes over the fence, now we're stuck.
Yeah, I can't imagine us putting a gate in that playground near that wetland. I can't.
Okay,
Someone would have had to specifically ask for that because
Okay.
we wouldn't want a kid to get in there. I mean, that area, I don't know if you've been back there, but that
Yep.
river that runs there,
yep,
even though the one that runs along the building is a intermittent stream.
Yep.
The stream it dumps into, you can kayak in at any time of the year. So we would never have put a
Okay.
gate there to leave it unlocked. So
yeah, okay.
But Lisa,
Okay.
is that something that I don't know, the school department / building committee should consider?
I don't know.
I don't know if it's between security and
Yeah.
convenience, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
I think anyone that wants to put a gate there needs to just take a walk back there and look at that
yeah,
stream that's 6 or 8 feet wide and how hard it runs. I would
Yeah.
hate to think a kid ever got in there.
well, in the original school, there was no fencing back there, so. It was-
Again, I think
Yeah.
you're just lucky, you know, so
Yeah.
I would, we'll do whatever you guys want, but I think you need some serious consideration.
Yeah, that was
This
just
is
a
this
question.
is the reason why we replaced the fence on that other field.
Yeah, there was, yeah, I
Because
know, it was,
both of those streams that are adjacent to those playgrounds run really, really hard. So
Yeah.
we thought about this early on and decided to fence it all off, so.
yeah,
So-
that was great, because in the previous, we have had kids running into the woods, looking for the stream. They're curious, you know? But,
So I'm not trying to spend the committee's
Yeah.
money, but is it the kind of thing, Lisa, where it is a problem and you're losing stuff and maybe the fence is higher and that would help?
I was just curious because, you know, now there's a bunch of balls back there and you really can't get, I guess you could go Wally Kruger Way and kind of beat your way around that whole thing to get them.
Well, you could put a gate in with a lock and then,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Yeah. What
or
is
just-
neat back there is there's a lot of milkweed that they were watching the butterflies,
Oh,
the
nice.
monarchs, and that's really cool back there. And one of the teachers that has retired quite a few years ago, she was the original one that planted the milkweed in the old building outside, and it is still there. So the kids were really interested in that. Anyways, that's just an aside. But I was just curious about the gate situation. I don't know. But I do appreciate that it's all fenced in.
And again, I'm not looking to spend money, right? But like, does anyone want us to ask the fence person to install a gate that could be locked? I mean, would the school department even have the key. You know what I mean?
I'm a no on that, Gene.
Okay.
I don't want to risk it being left open or left unlocked at some point in time. I would rather there not be a gate. I'd rather we just spend money and buy balls.
Good.
Anything else, Lisa?
No, I'm good tonight. Thanks.
So Gene, I wanted to go back to item 7, PCO 111.
Sure. Yep.
So I guess, would it be fair to characterize it as maybe a workmanship issue, but not because of the circumstances of having to, how disruptive it would be, that we're taking the credit in lieu of that? Because you did mention that it's not a durability thing. So is
Yeah,
it
it's
more
not
of a-
durability or functionality, to be honest. It's kind of taking a pound of flesh. You know, like,
Yeah.
guys, you didn't do what we were expecting. You know, we
Okay.
can't just accept it. You know?
Yeah, this had nothing to do with the surface being functional. It just doesn't look, and I'll use that word, it doesn't look like the landscape architect envisioned it. It's not that it's done poorly, it's just not done exactly like the drawings. And my question to the landscape architect was, how much sleep are you going to lose over this? Because we really don't want to shut these playgrounds down next spring. And what she said was, it's just one of those things that I wish wasn't that way, but there is no issue with this at all. So there is no compromise of the quality. It's just not what they drew. And there's probably 100 things in this building that are like that there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not exactly what we drew. So this one we were able to get some money from because they would have had to remobilize and come back with their 6 or 8 man crew for a week in the spring. And that is worth some money.
Okay, that helps
I think
clarify.
she wants to send a message to the company on the next one. Don't mess with me. And you get the benefit.
Yep. All right, any more questions for the designer update? That really covered the change order, but is there anything else for Gene or John? All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to item 8, approval of Bacon payment requisition number 23. A vote is required. Um,
Yep, so this was in the sum of $430,899.
So if there isn't any discussion, we would need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the payment of, I can't see the number. $430,899.
I'll second. This is Scott.
All right, let's take the vote.
All right, John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes,
Pat,
Yes.
Harsh,
yes,
Michael,
Yes.
and Scott.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is item 9, approval of Bacon change order number 20. Votes required. Gene went through all of the items in his designer update. But if there are any questions, now's the time to ask them. All right, so there would be a motion for $49,455.05.
I'll make the motion for a change order in the amount of $49,455.05.
This
Is
is
there a
Harsh,
second?
second.
Thank you. All right, we'll take the vote.
All right, John,
Yes.
excuse me, Mark,
Yes,
Pat,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes,
Michael,
Yes.
and Scott.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Agenda item 10, report of the communication group. I know Lil and Mike are out or not in attendance, who normally cover that. Scott, is that something you can cover, or was there any activity, or anybody have anything to report?
I'm not as knowledgeable as they are, obviously. I haven't, as far as I know, I haven't heard any new information for that committee, so.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that topic for anybody? All right. Item 11, the next Mitchell Elementary School Building Committee meetings. I know Alyssa had that up on her report, which I just closed.
January 9th.
January 9th, okay. All right. Item 12, new business. Does anybody have any new business? Okay, seeing none. Item 13, public comment. Anybody have anything for this say or discuss? All right, I don't see anybody. So the next item is to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
second, Mark.
All right, and before we take the roll, I just want to say thank you, everybody, and have a good holiday and Merry Christmas.
See you too.
You too.
Wish you all the
Alright.
same.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes,
Pat,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
When he get back,
Michael,
Yes.
and Scott.
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.